Untitled on the beat.
What's good, everyone? So we're Nazi with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMVSportsZone. And once again, we got Noah on the channel. I'm back, right? Last week I missed out on Noah's great prediction video, but this week I'm back and we got a very good weekly fantasy preview video for week 15 now, man. Week 15, got 3 weeks left of the NFL season.
Even the playoffs.
Yeah, 2 weeks left probably of the fantasy season for most people out there. So that being said, Noah, do you want to first introduce, once again, your great fantasy sports platform that everybody needs to subscribe to if they haven't already?
Thank you, Nazi. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure you hear it at the beginning of every video, but I'm here with SportAI, and SportAI is a mobile app integrated with artificial intelligence that optimizes your fantasy lineups and helps anyone understand fantasy sports analytics with a click of a button. Currently, we have our sign-up list open for beta testers, and more importantly, we have our breakout players using the power of AI through our weekly emails. So make sure to check out the description below to check out that newsletter and to sign up. And if we're going to go into this video, I'm very excited what the AI came up with last week.
Yeah, and you know, I wasn't here last week to make picks, but I'm going to ask you anyways, Noah, can you give me some of the picks that you got wrong, some of the picks, if at all, that you got right? Can you just give me a summary pretty much of everything you predicted last week? Yeah,
so very, very good weekend this past week. Always. Very excited. To start off, we had a huge win in the running back department. Cam Akers of the Los Angeles Rams, an absolute sleeper. And I had faith in the machine, obviously, picked him up in every single one of our leagues. Nazi knows help. Yep. And he's going to help me, you know, knock on wood, win that championship. He's got a great matchup again this week. An RB1. That's what I said it. RB1 rest of the way. Okay. Our other player, to the lesser extent, J.K. Dobbins of the Baltimore Ravens. We called him having a solid game last week. He did outperform his projection. I really wish that Gus Edwards would stop getting the ball in the red zone.
Got him in my other league. Yep.
Dobbins still at a touchdown, is still the most important back on that run offense of the Ravens. Another player must start this weekend against the Jaguars. So I'm going to say he's going to have another good week. And then to wrap up, the combo of Michael Pittman and T.Y. Hilton of the Indianapolis Colts. T.Y. Hilton getting all the attention right now, finally coming alive. Finally coming alive. I drafted him and I held on for him so long, finally paying off. This week, he is going against a Texans defense that is absolutely atrocious. They just lost Reed for the rest of the season. Now,
how many yards did they give up to Trubisky? How many touchdowns? How many yards?
Way too many.
There you go.
So 3 touchdowns and way too many yards for Mitchell Trubisky. They are now ranked the worst pass defense and run defense in the league. The Colts, we'll go more into this video, are about to have a beatdown. Okay. So those are our wins, yeah.
Okay, wouldn't expect anything less after giving up all those yards and touchdowns to Mitchell Trubisky 1 week after coming back after being benched. So with that being said, Noah, let's start off our week 15 preview video. Can you give me a fantasy sleeper that everybody should look out for this week in week 2 of the playoffs for a lot of people out there?
Let's start off with a definite breakout player. If you do not, I'm telling you this right now, if you do not have an elite quarterback, I mean a Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson, even Deshaun Watson is questionable, you need to pick up this player. Phillip Rivers of the Indianapolis Colts. He, like I mentioned, has an elite matchup against the Houston Texans. We saw what happened last week against the Raiders. The Raiders have a bad passing defense. Put up 44. A lot of it on the run, but Rivers did a lot as well. We have now an even worse defense in the Texans. And this time, Rivers loves to pass against blitzing defenses. The Raiders are not much of a blitzing team, but the Texans are. And in a season that's already lost, with a DB core that's destroyed. They're going to continue to blitz and hope they can reach Rivers because of his lack of mobility, but he's got a quick arm. He's got Hilton. He's got Pittman. Phillip Rivers is a QB1 this week.
Okay, I like the pick. And on that theme, I actually have a lot of quarterbacks this week that I'll be talking about, but for my sleeper pick, I'm going to go out on a limb and say him. I'm going to say him. We talked about him before the video, and I'm going to mention him right here. That guy is quarterback Jalen Hurts from the Philadelphia Eagles. I got him as a sleeper, not as a great fantasy play, as a sleeper this week on purpose. Jalen Hurts, in his first NFL start against arguably the toughest defense in the entire National Football League, he produced nearly 20 half PPR points and had over 100 yards on the ground on Sunday. And I know you didn't have the greatest type of real-life quarterback performances, but when it comes to fantasy, that stuff really doesn't matter. It all matters when it comes to dual threat ability, being able to run the ball. You get 6 points for every rushing touchdown, 4 points usually for a passing touchdown. So if you got a guy that can run the ball and can give you points, then that's all that matters. And while he took the Eagles wide receivers out of fantasy relevance last week, he really allowed for Miles Sanders to have a bounce back week in a huge way, much to my chagrin, because I know a lot of people out there did as well, had him on their bench because of the frequent bust performances that he's had and the fact that he was going up against arguably the best rush defense in the entire league. And now Hurts is playing against a tough, middle of the pack Cardinals defense that is middle of the pack but has been fairly inconsistent at times. So I can see Hurts being pretty good with that mobility, especially, right? He doesn't need to be the most accurate passer when it comes to fantasy football. Just needs to be able to run the ball and just score touchdowns either through the air or on the ground. So while I won't put Hurts in my great fantasy plays category this week just yet, largely because the Cardinals aren't the worst of defenses, and also it's the Eagles. It's still the Eagles. I think Hurts is definitely a viable sleeper option this week if you're given very few options on the waiver wire to pick up, like a Phillip Rivers or two other guys that I'll mention later.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. There's a flip side, a lot of risk involved because the Cardinals are a very blitz-happy team. You saw what happened to the Giants. You saw Hassan Reddick, 5 sacks.
Watch that game live.
However, Hurts does have the advantage. He's much more mobile than Daniel Jones. Despite what everyone says about Jones' running ability, clearly didn't do anything. But Hurts is a lot more mobile in the pocket, which is not what the Cardinals were prepared for. So there's a lot of risk and reward there. I think that Hurts' floor is safe, ceiling's quite low though. So definitely a breakout pick or a sleeper pick. Yeah. I wouldn't go as far as breakout pick.
For sure. That was exactly my thinking. But moving on, can you give me 2 great fantasy plays this week?
Yeah. Let's go a little bit different. Let's go to the running back space again. And let's mention Mike Davis of the Carolina Panthers. So, as you know, whoever drafted Christian McCaffrey, rest in peace, he's not going to play the rest of the season. I'm sorry.
My other league. It's terrible. It's terrible.
I'm sorry. He gave everyone false hope. The chances of him playing at all this season is almost 0 now. They're just stalling so that people don't game plan for Mike Davis. But at this point, they should expect it. Mike Davis has actually a really good matchup against that Packers run D. He's been able to expose tougher run defenses before, and he's just coming off a 2-touchdown performance. I know he's been inconsistent at times, but they're going to have to lean on him heavily if they have any hope of winning this game. Even if the game script doesn't promote a run, they'll still use Davis because Davis is a dual threat back. So his floor is very safe. And if you were lucky enough to pick him off waivers like I was in one of my leagues, pick him up, check if he's there. He is a true breakout star for this weekend. Okay. And then our other pick, let's go a little bit different. Let's go to the defense. Our defensive pick that is very interesting, actually, is the Arizona Cardinals defense.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, the Hurts phenomenon is all good and dandy. However, there's one thing that really differs in the Saints and Cardinals play style on defense. The Saints are a good run-stopping team because they don't like to blitz that much. Occasionally they have Davis come in to blitz packages, but they trust their front 4. The Cardinals, on the other hand, love to blitz. They want to put pressure on Hurts. They want him to use his arm because, like you said, there are times he's not very accurate. They want him to run. So that is their game plan. They have enough DBs talent to stop the very mediocre pass attack. So if they shut down the run, they can completely shut down the Eagles' offense. Analytics and the machine really like the Cardinals, and I have to agree. Arizona Cardinals breakout pick.
Okay. I like the pick. Again, Hurts, he shouldn't have greatest fantasy performances because of the fact that the Cardinals defense is solid. And I mean, I saw that Cardinals Giants game live, right? Because I'm a Washington Football fan, so I wanted to see if the Giants would lose and allow us to get first place. And ultimately they did, but how they did it, man, the Cardinals, Hassan Riddick, 5 sacks. Like, a lot of people thought he was a bust, right, after getting picked very high in the draft a couple years back, but he really had his best game of his career on Sunday. And the Cardinals defense was ferocious, so we'll see. But in terms of my 2 great fantasy plays this week, I'm gonna first, I like, to do what you do, in the sense that I want to go with if you guys saw the first couple of videos early in the season, I used to go with just like chalk guys, right? Like, everyone knew this player would break out. But I'm going to go 2 sort of under the radar guys, at least fantasy wise. And first, Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback for the Steelers. I get it. Big Ben has struggled fantasy wise over the last 4 weeks, despite the really solid real life bounce back season overall that he's had. I believe his touchdown interception ratio is like 29-9. 29 touchdowns, 9 picks. But in the Steelers' 2 losses last week, the last 2 weeks, they came against arguably top 10 defenses in Washington and Buffalo. And the Steelers have also relied so much on the passing game the last few weeks. And James Conner has yet another injury to his quad that he suffered on Sunday night. So I think with the great receiving options that the Steelers have, hopefully they limit their drops. The great receiving options they have, with the middle of the pack Bengals defense, they'll be playing on Monday night. I think Roethlisberger is in for a bounce back outing this week for sure. And if you don't have one of those top quarterbacks right now, or one of your top quarterbacks is struggling, Kyler Murray, Ben Roethlisberger, you sunk my season. That's all I got to say. Ben Roethlisberger might be a good option to actually start this week in your lineup.
Definitely have to agree there. I think that Bengals defense has improved, but analytics in that case actually can be deceptive. Bengals have been facing some pretty bad teams. The Steelers have been exposed slightly, but they're, by question, way better than any of the opponents the Bengals have faced recently. They have a lot of passing options. Ebron, Johnson should have all bounce back games. If not, they still have Washington. So Roethlisberger is a very safe pick, because no matter how their other receivers do, there's still enough for a big game from Big Ben.
And so I do have like a couple more studs that I want to like share with you guys, so you guys should definitely consider having your lineup, if not just having them outright. But I guess I'll just go with, first and foremost, someone who a lot of people probably might not expect to be a stud at this point, and Tom Brady, the quarterback for the Buccaneers. So I am going with the GOAT again this week, as I did earlier in the season when he actually had some great fantasy performances, if you all remember. Brady's another guy who's been pretty inconsistent in the second half of the season, and last week didn't have to do too much against the Vikings in order to secure the Bucs' win. But this week, though, like Big Ben again, I see a big get-right game for him as he's playing the Falcons defense that has actually been very elite when it comes to stopping the run. But when it comes to stopping the pass, they still suffer there. They've dealt with injuries throughout the season, and they've actually still, despite some improvement over the last couple of weeks, still giving up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks this season. So I look for Brady. Again, I don't expect him to have one of those boom games where he gives you 30-plus points. I expect him to give you at least 20 to 25 points this week, which could be really important for all those clamoring for quarterbacks, right, off the waiver wire, who don't have very solid options right now. And 20 to 25 points might not sound like a lot for fantasy quarterbacks, but again, could be the difference between you winning your playoff matchup this week or you losing. So I'll go with him. And then I also have, before Noah, you can jump right in, but I also have 2 other options that I didn't really write down too many notes for, but I think are actually very good studs this week. And Brandon Ayuk and Scary Terry, I think they will be great fantasy options at the wide receiver position. Ayuk is just thriving despite the tough defenses. He played against the Washington football team defense that has been ferocious the last couple of weeks, especially last week. And Ayuk still found a way to thrive. So I think he, especially in a matchup with the Cowboys now, I think he should do pretty well. And then Scary Terry, I know, as someone who has him on their team, on their fantasy team and their real life team, he's definitely underwhelmed the last 2 weeks. But this week he is playing against the Seahawks, so the worst pass defense in the NFL. So I think you should strongly consider starting him this week.
I definitely agree with the Ayuk pick. I do not agree with the Terry pick.
Okay.
As a Washington football team fan myself, the Seattle defense has improved a lot. Also, there's way too many questions at quarterback that will damage receivers. J.D. McKissick, I will say, is a sleeper pick because of the short pass game and the run game. However, a lot of questions in terms of the deep and mid-range, which is where Terry thrives. So I'm not saying he's going to have a bad game, but he's a very high-risk play.
Yeah, that's fair.
But Ayuk, safe floor. Cowboys defense is terrible. With Deebo Samuel out for the season, he's the unquestioned number one. That's a great pick.
And not last but not least, but moving on, can you give me 2 disappointing fantasy duds that everyone should look out for this week?
Yes. Let's go quarterbacks because that's the most important position for the playoffs. I would very highly consider not starting him. That's why I recommend picking up Rivers, making that last-second decision if you need to, because his opponent, Deshaun Watson, will be a bust this week.
Wow, okay.
As someone with Deshaun Watson, someone that was matchup-proof, Deshaun Watson has so much talent, but unfortunately there are so many factors against him. First of all, David Johnson probably is not going to play this weekend, which will damage the already absolutely horrible run offense. Second of all, their passing options has continued to plummet. Cooks, if he's back healthy, helps the case for Watson. If he's not back healthy, their number 1 and 2 is Hansen and Coty, which is not a winning offense. That's why I'm going to say all that. On top of that, they are struggling on defense. It's going to be an absolute shootout. Like last week, it'll try to be a shootout, but Watson is running out of options. He's running out of time. He's also injured. He's apparently fighting through an injury, which I really disagree with. A lot of people wanted to shut down for the season because the season's already lost. So there's a lot of very bad factors going against Watson, especially in a week with a lot of quarterbacks with really good matchups. You have Rivers with a great matchup, even Jared Goff against the Jets, Justin Herbert against the Raiders. It's not, at a certain point, you have to realize it's not worth the risk to start Watson. Usually Watson is a must start, but there are enough factors and enough other good QBs that it's not worth it, because if Watson just hits, his floor is safe, but his ceiling is low. Rivers and the other quarterbacks, yes, their ceiling is lower, but their floor is lower, but their ceiling is much higher. If you're someone that is not confident in their projected lineup, if you have a team that you're facing that's a lot stronger than you, you have to take the risk. You have to bench Watson. You have to start one of the other quarterbacks.
And your other pick?
Other pick will be Zach Moss of the Buffalo Bills. There are still some people that have some faith in Zach Moss because of a few big games. But first of all, shame on you. Second of all, there are a lot of other real-world factors that are going against him. First of all, here's SportAI. Devin Singletary is trending up tremendously on our rankings and is one of our breakup players for this week. And also in real life, he keeps eating away carries from Zach Moss. Zach Moss is starting to get in this middle ground where they don't know how to play him well. When he goes in the field, he's kind of there as almost a decoy. He gets like that 2-yard carry to set up a pass. He gets a short pass, set up a run. But Singletary actually has plays that look like they're designed for him. And on that Bills offense that may run into some troubles passing-wise this weekend, they're going to lean on a running back, especially with division hopes on the line. They're going to lean on Devin Singletary. So Zach Moss owners, I would be honest, drop him at this point. He's not worth holding on the rest of the season.
Yeah, 2 great picks there. I like the Watson pick as the bust this week. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Deshaun Watson, but yeah, it's going to be the Colts defense. Tough test there. And yeah, Zach Moss definitely being phased out of that Bills offense. I know a lot of people going into the the draft, the fantasy draft, thought that Zach Moss is going to be a breakout candidate. I was not one of them, but I know a lot of people were, and fortunately he hasn't really panned out this year, and Devin Singletary still has a hold on that position at this point. But my 2 picks, so first and foremost, I'm going to go with someone who I don't think is going to absolutely bust. Like, I think he's going to give you some solid production. He usually does have somewhat of a floor because he is the undisputed running back 1 on his team. But Ezekiel Elliott, the running back for the Cowboys, he hasn't been his usual self this season. And, a lot of people out there drafted him as a top 5, top 6 pick in their fantasy drafts, and it's tough sledding there. And his role in the passing game has pretty much diminished since week 5, minus the Vikings game in week 11. And even his carries on the ground have not been high whatsoever. He's still getting a solid 15 to 20 carries usually, but he's not really doing too much with those carries. The Cowboys offensive line, a lot of people think that Cowboys offensive line is what it was 5 years ago, 3 years ago, and being one of the best. It's injured right now, guys. It really is. We got to face the facts. And also, whenever Zeke has played against a tough rushing defense this year, his production has pretty much plummeted. And now he's playing against the 49ers defense that, while still injury-riddled, still giving up the 5th fewest fantasy points to running backs this season. So even with the Cowboys winning last week, I don't see much changing in terms of Elliott's production getting much better. Again, I think he'll give you some points, man. Like, if you're playing in a half PPR league, maybe he'll get you 8 to 10 points or maybe 8 to 12 points, but that's not what you want out of a running back 1 or even a high-end running back 2 at this point. So,
definitely.
Yeah. But in terms of my second pick, though, this is kind of like a weekly tradition at this point. I'm going to go with him once again. Todd Gurley, the running back for the Falcons. This man is a bust. Ever since the 2019, well, technically 2018, but was played in 2019 Super Bowl, he's just not been good, man. He just, even before that, I believe it was the NFC Championship game that year, he just
towards the end,
yeah, it's just been really bad, and I don't think he'll ever be back to where he was before. He just hasn't been the same since that Super Bowl, since that playoff run that the Rams had. And I didn't trust Gurley already in many fantasy formats going into the season and going into this week, but now he's playing against a tough Buccaneers defense that has given up the 3rd fewest fantasy points to running backs this season. So I think, to put it very short, I think Gurley will have a dud performance once again. And I saw many fantasy sites out there saying he's a running back 3, running back 4. And I mean, in terms of fantasy play this week, I mean, he's not good. He's just not good, guys. Can't just look at the name and think he's going to give you running back 2 numbers. I think a lot of people know that by now, but some people don't. So.
Yeah, definitely have to agree. Todd Gurley sucks because you saw what the Rams did to him. They basically ran him into the ground, then dumped him off. He was kind of that David Johnson tier earlier in the season where he always would hit his projection, but now really starting to slow down. He's starting to lose carries to Hill, to a lot of the other running backs. There's a huge risk, and in a game that might be a shootout, the run game's going to be deteriorating. If you have to start Gurley and you're in the playoffs this far, first of all, that's a miracle. Second of all, if you are, I would really suggest to bench him. There are a lot of other good running backs that we've talked about, definitely still on the waiver. He's a must bench.
And last but not least, he's on the second to last week in many people's playoffs out there. Can you give me your fantasy MVP for week 15?
Yeah, so this week's fantasy MVP is going to be someone that you've heard the name before, and a lot of you guys did not trust the machine and you regretted it. And I'm telling you, do not regret it again. David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears.
Wow, okay.
David Montgomery again. First of all, as I called 2 weeks ago, he has the best remaining schedule of any running back in the entire league. He has proven that the bad matchups result in an explosion. I said that he would be a running back 1. He's not more than running back 1. He's a top 5 running back in the fantasy playoffs. Fun fact, in the past 3 weeks, David Montgomery has scored more points than Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry in the 3-week span. That's right. more than Cook and Derrick Henry.
God.
David Montgomery has a juicy matchup again this weekend. Mitch Trubisky has proven that he makes Montgomery better because they don't focus so much on the run game anymore because they know Trubisky's now a threat to the air. David Montgomery, if he's by some miracle still on your waiver, pick him up right now. He will finish top 3 running back this week.
Okay. David Montgomery, guys. You heard it from the SportAI expert, fantasy analytics expert, Noah, with a going back to Montgomery once again. And he worked out the first time, so likely will work out the second time as well. And my pick for fantasy MVP for week 15 is actually going to be someone who was injured for most of the season, but now the last couple of weeks has gotten back. And this man is Austin Eckler, the running back for the Los Angeles Chargers. And before getting to this pick, we talked about this before the video, but one of my good friends, one of the people who's likely watching this video right now, who is in our fantasy league, has Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, and Austin Eckler's on his bench right now currently. And this guy is actually going to be someone who I am predicting to be the fantasy MVP this week. And onto the analysis, the PPR machine has returned, guys. He's returned. 2 out of the last 3 weeks, Eckler has produced nearly 20 half PPR points, even in actually a tough matchup last week against the stout Falcons run defense. Believe it or not, they are actually really stout, and has resumed his significant role both as a runner and as an excellent pass catcher in the Chargers offense. And now he has Herbert, right? Like an actual solid quarterback who could throw him the ball, who could provide defenses a passing threat that they have to contain, right? It's not all on Eckler. So, I mean, the guy, he caught 9 balls alone last week, right? In his 3rd week back. And this week, oh my gosh, has one of the best matchups you can ask for against the Raiders, who I believe just fired their defensive coordinator and have given up the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs this season, and have made it even easier for even the lesser fantasy backs out there, right? Like guys who are not top echelon fantasy backs, they've made them look like amazing. So if Eckler is if he's fully ready to go for Thursday night with that hamstring injury, I look for Eckler to have a big game. Especially, this is something that we talked about again, like off air, but not a lot of people recognize this. On Thursday night football, a lot of teams love to run the ball on short weeks. They really do. If you watch the games every single week. And
very good observation. That's true.
Yeah. And Austin Eckler, like, he gives you that threat in the run game, but also for Herbert, he also is a threat in the pass game as well. So I think Eckler is going to have a very good week this week and is my fantasy MVP for week 15.
Definitely have to agree there. Raiders defense atrocious. I will say you have to check the full health of the team first. Yeah. If Mike Williams comes back, his Eckler's value diminishes slightly. But if Mike Williams is out, expect Eckler to get anywhere from 20 to 30 fantasy points because they need him to thrive in the pass game. Herbert and the Chargers love to pass. The Falcons did a decent job against them last week. Raiders, not going to do so. This is the same team that got blown out by the Falcons. So I know that the Raiders are fighting for their playoff lives, and the Chargers have nothing to lose at this point. Expect a big game. If Keenan Allen is hurt, by the way, if he is hurt, because he was questionable. If he is hurt, then Eckler is a downgrade to RB2. If Allen is healthy, top 10 finish for Eckler.
That's it for this video, guys. Week 15 fantasy preview. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the DMVSportsZone channel, where we try to bring you fire content each and every upload. On here, we have a live stream, Washington Football Weekly Livestream, that should be on either tomorrow night, Wednesday night, or Thursday night. But yeah, look forward to one more week, I believe, maybe a second week, we'll see, of the fantasy previews on this channel. And as always, Noah, it's great to have you on, bro. And You give great fantasy expertise. You oftentimes push back on my takes, which is good because people need that. They don't need to just trust me because I'm making these videos and stuff. But any last words before we completely wrap up?
No, super excited. Good luck to everyone out there. To the people that have signed up for the beta testing list from these videos, you know that the machine has your back. You know Nazi has your back. I wish you luck. Let us know how you guys do in the comments, or feel free to message us. Very excited to see how things play out, and happy to be here.
All right. So with that being said, thank you guys again so much for watching, and have a great fantasy weekend this week. Great football weekend. I see that we get NFL games on Saturday as well. So, and a bunch of good college football games on Saturday as well. So it should be a very good
week for football.
Weekend. Yeah, for sure. And but yeah, guys, peace. Have a great rest of your week, and see you guys on the next one. Peace.